Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajacharya Ashtotra Shatashi Srimad Svangai Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. Do you think you go up to Jamal's room and get the Bhagavatam? The 4th canto part 2 or whatever, because, yeah, the books. I don't think so. Depends how fast he is. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 22, Maharaj Prithu meeting with the four Kumaras, and we're on text 48. Maitreya Vacha Ta Atma Yoga Pataya Alirajena Pujata Shilam Tadiyam Samsanta Ke Bhavan Mishatam Nirnam Maitreya Vacha Ta Atma Yoga Pataya Adhirajena Pujata Shilam Tadiyam Samshanta Kebavan Mishatam Nirnam Maitreya Vacha Ta Atma Yoga Pataya Adhirajena Pujata Shilam Tadiyam Sangsanta Ke bhavan mishatam nirnam. You have a pen? No. Where's your... Thanks. Maitreya Vacha. The great sage Maitreya continued to speak. Te, they, Atma Yoga Patayaha, the masters of self-realization by devotional service. Adirajena, by the original King Prithu. Pujataha, being worshipped. Shilam, character. Tadiyam, of the king. Santaha, eulogizing. Ke, in the sky. Abhavan, appeared. Mishatam, while observing. Nirnam, of the people. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued. Being thus worshipped by Maharaj Prithu, the 4 Kumaras, who were masters of devotional service, became very pleased. Indeed, they appeared in the sky and praised the character of the king, and everyone observed them. Purport. It is said that the demigods never touch the surface of the earth. They walk and travel in space only. Like the great sage Narada, the Kumaras do not require any machine to travel in space. Save a lot of airplane money, right? There are also residents of Siddhalok who can travel in space without machines. Since they can go from one planet to another, they are called siddhas. That is to say, they have acquired all mystic and yogic powers. Such great saintly persons who have attained complete perfection in mystic yoga are not visible in this age on earth because humanity is not worthy of their presence. The Kumaras, however, praised the characteristics of Maharaj Prithu in his great devotional attitude and humility. The Kumaras were greatly satisfied by King Prithu's method of worship. It was by the grace of Maharaj Prithu that the common citizens in his domain could see the Kumaras flying in outer space. So we read one more. Ranyastu duro mahatam sangstityadhyatma shikshaya aptakaman ivatmanam mena atmanya vastataha. Amongst great personalities, Maharaj Prithu was the chief by virtue of his fixed position in relation to spiritual enlightenment. He remained satisfied as one who has achieved all success in spiritual understanding. Purport. Remaining fixed in devotional service gives one the utmost in self-satisfaction. Actually, self-satisfaction can be achieved only by pure devotion to devotees, who have no desire other than to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to desire, he is fully satisfied with himself. Similarly, a devotee who has no desire other than to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead is as self-satisfied as the Supreme Lord. Everyone is hankering after peace of mind and self-satisfaction, but these can only be achieved by becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. King Prithu's statements in previous verses regarding his vast knowledge and perfect devotional service are justified here, for he is considered best amongst all Mahatmas. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 13, Sri Krishna speaks of Mahatmas in this way. Mahatmanastamam partha daivim prakritim ashitaha bhajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. The Mahatmas are not under the clutches of the illusory energy, but under the protection of the spiritual energy. Because of this, the real Mahatma is always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Prithu Maharaj exhibited all the symptoms of a Mahatma. Therefore, he is mentioned in this verse as Durya Mahatam, best of the Mahatmas. Okay, so 50 tomorrow. Om Jnana Timidandasya Kananjana Shakaya Chakshuvanmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Katitavachalam Pangam Nangate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Diditadinam Bhanchaka Padribishta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, so the Kumaras, they appeared in the sky and praised the character of the king, and everyone observed them, so apparently they're flying off into outer space. And I was saying how, yeah, that would save a lot of airfare if, devotees were able to do that, right? Go to India, go here, go there. You wouldn't need much dakshin, right, to go here, to go there. They wouldn't have to say, hey, if you pay, I'll come there if you pay my ticket. You say, you don't have to pay my ticket, I'll be there, right? Quite interesting experience. But they have that power. The Kumaras, Narada Muni also has that power, and there's others, the Siddhas, right? They have the power, the perfection, the yogic power. And apparently one time Prabhupada said that, he did say that one time they asked him, how did you get here? And Prabhupada was explaining there's different ways. He explained in the purport of the Bhagavatam, there's different ways of traveling. He said one is by mantra, you travel. The other is by yantra, right? Like machine. Another, he said you travel by pigeons. A bunch of pigeons will pick you up and transfer you. So quite interesting scene as well, if you would see that, somebody coming here by pigeons. So also this text 49, that glorifying Maharaj Prithu, amongst great personalities, Maharaj Prithu is the chief by virtue of his fixed position in spiritual enlightenment. He remains satisfied as one who has achieved all success in spiritual understanding. So this being satisfied in Krishna consciousness is actually very important. It's very important to be satisfied. And like one time Prabhupada, he said, devotees quote Prabhupada saying that he said that, okay, one has to be happy. A devotee means happy. You have to be happy. And he said, if you're not happy, you're not a devotee. And then, so someone would say, okay, well, hey, I'm not feeling so happy. Well, maybe I should just, because I'm trying to be a devotee, but Prabhupada's saying that if I'm not happy, I'm not a devotee, so I'm not feeling so happy. Maybe we should just give up, right? Because I'm not really cutting the mark here, because I'm not as happy as I should be. So maybe I should just give up. But that's not the point. The point is that one should try to be a devotee. And part of being a devotee is being satisfied, being happy. And being happy, being satisfied, it practically means that somehow or other we're able to take shelter of Krishna fully. Like here it says a devotee, it says that everyone's hankering after peace of mind and self-satisfaction, but these can only be achieved by becoming a pure devotee. But we would say that there's some, obviously, we should, strive for that, becoming a pure devotee. But even if one's not a pure devotee, even the beginning stages of bhakti, there's a lot of relief from suffering, and there's a lot of enjoyment there too, also, or else how can people continue? So whatever ashram one is in, brahmachari or grihastha or vanaprastha or sannyasi, whatever it may be, the mission is the same, to take shelter of Krishna, mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritimashruta, to take shelter of the divine nature by being fully engaged in Krishna service. And so in this regard, someone may say, because sometimes people wonder, okay, what do I do in my life? Do I go this way? Because actually, it's amazing how many different ways we could go, even in devotional service and material life. In actually a lot of, you could say, small choices we make actually makes a really big difference in our life. People say, like sometimes, like for example, so okay, I'm going to move to Mexico. That's a big change. That's going a whole different direction. Or there's sometimes, I remember there was one devotee recently, he was thinking after his son turns 18, he'll join the SanDiego Brahmachari ashram. And he did the exact opposite. He didn't join the Brahmachari ashram in SanDiego, he got married. And he moved to Mayapur, and he, has a child now. So it's like day and night. Yeah, it's like day and night, So just a small little, decision like that. It really changes a lot, actually. So that's why you got to be careful, what decisions we make. Even you could say a small decision leads to another, to a certain outcome that produces another outcome that produces another outcome. It's a whole, it's a series of sequence going on. So, like sometimes people say, okay, well, I'm a brahmachari, or I'm a grihastha, or I'm a vanaprastha, or I'm a sannyasi. And in any of these ashrams, they may not be feeling satisfied. I'm not feeling fulfilled, I'm not feeling satisfied as a brahmachari. And then householders may be feeling that too. I'm not feeling satisfied as a householder. And sannyasis even, I'm not feeling satisfied. So someone may say, okay, well, what should you do, right? What should a person do in that situation? Whatever ashram they're in, what should they do? And one conclusion that people come to is that, hey, well, I'm just going to change my ashram. I'm a sannyasi, but I'm just going to give it up. I'm going to go back to be a brahmachari again, go wash the pots. I don't know. Or from a brahmachari, I'm going to become a householder. From a householder, I'm going to, ditch my family and whatever. That's a conclusion. that some people come, I'm just going to change my situation. And in some ways, for some individual, that's actually true. That, yeah, you could say that's a good decision. But for some people, that's not true. They should just change how they are living in that ashram, or how they are acting in that ashram, what they're doing in that particular ashram. In other words, they should try to follow more strictly, more intensely the particular injunctions or instructions or directions that are that one's supposed to engage in that particular ashram. Because, people think, I'm not feeling satisfied, so I need to change. So there's either change externally, right? We change our external situation, or we could change our internal situation. And factually, those are our options. We either change externally or we change internally. And everybody, Krishna will actually force us. I mean, Krishna will, practically speaking, force us to do either of these things. You have to change your, like for example, if someone's just not satisfied as a brahmachari, how long are they going to be able to remain a brahmachari? Just can't do it. I'm not satisfied. I'm not feeling the bhav, whatever. I'm not feeling the brahmachari bhav. I got it. This is too much. I'm out of here. Change externally. Or they may feel, oh, I'm not feeling the bhav, so I'm not feeling the ecstasy of being a brahmachari. All right, I'm going to change my internal, world, how I'm seeing things, my activities, so I could relish the brahmachari bhav, or the bhav of being a brahmachari, the ecstasy of being a brahmachari. So those two things have to happen. One of those things have to happen, or else it's very difficult. I mean, I've seen so many times, the brahmacharis, if they don't learn how to, or you could say, internally relish the ecstasy of being a brahmachari, which means the facility of brahmachari, because we're not actually brahmacharis anyways, we're eternal servants of Krishna. But the particular ashram that we're in, if the devotees don't know how to relish that, then they'll, okay, I'm going to change externally. Those two things happen. It's very hard for someone just to go on and on and on without either being satisfied or changing. So that's important that we do either one of those. I was listening to the talk recently by His Holiness Devamrita Swami, and he was explaining how he was living in New York in the Brooklyn Temple, I believe, yeah. And it was a really happening temple, he was explaining. There was, 80 brahmacharis, 50 brahmacharinis. There was, 50 households, and they would all, every morning, they'd all go to the morning program, like every single one of them, whole morning program, the whole evening program, and they'd all be fully engaged in devotional service. And it was just a extremely fired up temple in the history of ISKCON. And he said, sometimes they would do things that, nowadays wouldn't be so much appreciated. Like he was saying, the temple president would, in the winter time, he would turn off the heater in the whole, temple, and then so everybody would go out on Sankirtan, stuff like that. So, be saying, oh, that was 40 years ago, we don't do those things anymore. And then somehow or other his service changed, and he had to go to the West Coast. He's explaining this, so whatever. Don't hold it against me if anybody, but he was explaining this. He had to go to the West Coast. And he noticed that on the West Coast things were a lot different at that time. And he was saying how he moved to a particular temple that was on the street, and it was spelled, he said that the street name was Watts, S-E-K-A. Now, what Sika? Yeah, same street it's on now. And he was saying how it would, like, devotees would say, what Sika, like Sika, like what Sika. So, because he said so many people, they didn't have Sikas, What's... Yeah, they grew their hair out. That's what that means. They grew their hair out, right? And he said that the mood was like a lot different from New York. It was, everybody was kind of relaxed and mellow, and yeah, sure, Prabhu, and yeah, let's kind of mellow and not very intense or fired up. Yeah. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And he was saying how they would attend how in New York all the devotees would attend the morning and evening program. And then when he came to LA, he said all the devotees would attend the morning program. That's, yeah, definitely. But he said that they wouldn't attend the evening program. And that was just like, because there was a bunch of New York devotees who came. And to them, that was just like shocking. It was like, oh my God, this is abominable. They're not attending the morning, evening program. I can't believe it. They were shocked. So, and then he was noticing how there was in this particular yatra, there was a lot of like, you could say, gossip going on. And Prabhupada would call it, talk, Oh, did you hear this? Did you hear that? And then he said that devotees would be up and down the street talking, standing around talking. Oh, did you hear what happened to this temple president in Europe? You hear what he fell into. And oh, did you hear what happened in South America? And so many devotees were spending a lot of their time doing that. And then he felt that he started getting into this mood. He explained he started getting into this mood of gossiping and fault finding and all these types of things. And it started to affect him, because that association he had was affecting him negatively. And he was feeling, he wasn't feeling happy. He was feeling unhappy and not satisfied. He's a brahmachari there. And he started feeling like a particular mood develop in him that was not a mood of humility or anything like that. It was the opposite. And so he started to think to himself, oh, this is not good. I did not join the Hare Krishna movement to be like this. I'm not satisfied, I'm not happy, and I have to distance myself. He said, I have to distance myself from these types of people, these devotees, because they're actually affecting me negatively. So he did that. And then he started to get really worried, and he said that he remembered what one of his godbrothers, or specifically, what he did is he went before the Srila Prabhupada Murti in Los Angeles, and he prayed every day for 3 days in a row. He said, Srila Prabhupada, please help me with this. I don't want to live like this. Please, help me understand I'm your humble servant. And he was begging Prabhupada to help him. And he said that after that 3 days, it just magically, that mood disappeared. That he was developing. He said it just disappeared. And he didn't feel that anymore. And he was associating with certain devotees who were encouraging him in that particular mood, that positive mood. And in relation to this, he also said that there was a devotee, one Indian devotee named Haridas. He was one of Prabhupada's first disciples in India. And Haridas, every time Prabhupada would come to India, Haridas would run from the temple, whatever temple he was at, and just go directly to Prabhupada. He did that many times in a row. So then, one time Prabhupada told him, what, do you think I'm this body? He said, you keep on running towards me, and every time coming to see, you think I'm this body? He said, you don't understand that in any temple you go throughout the world, you go to my Murti, and I'm there. So you could just come to my Murti, and I'm there. So it's an interesting point Prabhupada made. So we see from this particular case, Devamrita Swami, this particular example of himself he was giving, Devamrita Swami, that he was going down a particular direction. He was becoming very bitter, very unsatisfied. And if he would continue in that direction, he probably wouldn't have become Devamrita Swami. And sometimes devotees, they go in that direction through their whole life, actually. And this mood or this type of lifestyle is actually just based on material desires, because you got two things going on. One is taking shelter of the material energy. One is taking shelter of the spiritual energy. Spiritual energy means fully engaged in Krishna's service, right? We don't have time to be talking about this or that or doing whatever. We don't have time for all that. We got Krishna service going on. That's what the point he was making. That I wanted to live in such a ways where I don't have time for any nonsense, talk or whatever. So he's making that point. And he was also saying how, and you go a little further. Anyways, he was mentioning Laguna. If you wanted to go really far out, you go to Laguna Beach. And he said, if you really wanted to go far out, then if you really want to go off the deep end or something, you go to Hawaii. That's where you kind of let everything go, right? Anyways, that's what he was saying. I'm not saying that it's like that now. So yeah, there's two things going on. We could go different directions, and we want to try to go in the direction that's uplifting, positive, that we're heading in the right direction, right? Happy, satisfied, all that, heading back to the spiritual world. Because after all, we really have to learn how to love Krishna. That's the whole point. Before we go back to the spiritual world, we have to become, completely sold out servants of Krishna before we enter the spiritual world. And the material desires that are holding us back or holding people back they're endless, actually. Just like, we hop into the ocean of material desires, and it's just wave after wave. It just keeps on coming. It doesn't end. And those material desires are, you could say, what is pushing the will of samsara. It's only that. Because the material desires, they can't remain, they cannot actually be fulfilled. So therefore, people take another birth because they can't be fulfilled in one life. One life's not enough. It is really not enough. Just think about all the things people want to do. And, they have a bucket list or something. That means, bucket list means material desires. I want to go here, I want to do this, I want to do that. Material desires, but it goes on and on and on and on and on. One life isn't enough. So, for devotees for us to realize that, for devotees to realize that, for people to realize that is of the utmost importance, that material desires are endless. So why do I keep on engaging them? Just engage in Krishna service. That is the self, that is satisfying to the self, right? Like Savai pumso paro damyoto bhaktir hoksujaya hoitikiya pratiyata yatma supersediti. That's what will completely satisfy the self, means the soul. And yes, it will be a struggle for most, for practically everybody, unless they're liberated soul. It will be a struggle. But you struggle as a brahmachari or grihastha or vanaprastha or sannyasi, okay, fine, you struggle. Of course, sannyasis are supposed to be, right, largely past all that, but it's a struggle. And Prabhupada, one time he said, devotees would ask him many times, what will please you, Prabhupada? What will please you? And sometimes, oh, you distribute these books. Or Prabhupada said, you love Krishna. He said different things, different times, right? So in one particular case, Madhudvisha Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple, Prabhupada said that, he said, if you struggle, that will please me. If you struggle. So that's that's something that we could do, that I could do. I could struggle. But why will that please Prabhupada? Why will struggling? How does that? Is Prabhupada obviously is not like, what do you call it, sadist? Is that what's called, sadist? Sadist, yeah. Sadist. Prabhupada's not a sadist, which means he takes pleasure in people suffering. Prabhupada's not like that, nor Krishna. Krishna's not like that. It's not, Krishna's just standing back and, we're offering all this service and Krishna he's not really involved emotionally or anything, not really involved with our life. He's kind of like a sadist, always kind of taking pleasure in our struggling, right? Struggling with this, that, so many things. So Krishna's not like that. But due to our conditioning, yeah, it's a struggle. But if we really think about it, ultimately, devotional service is not impossible. It's very possible. By the mercy of Krishna, we become advanced. And aside from that, just like in our ordinary life, you could say that if someone was to say, "I'm struggling for you. I'm really working hard for you, day after day. I'm endeavoring in this particular direction for you. I'm doing this for you. It's difficult, I admit, but." I'm doing this for you. That would be very, that would melt our heart, right? At least to some degree, it may do that. So similarly, Krishna's pleased actually. Oh, look at this person, he's struggling, she's struggling so hard. For who? For him. That's the idea. So he'll be pleased with that struggle. And then from that we'll become more and more advanced. So to take shelter of the illusory energy is very easy. Any fool and rascal could do that. Not very difficult, right? But to take shelter of the spiritual energy is more difficult in this world. So, but this is what we want to do. Just like Prithu Maharaj said, he's under the shelter, the wonderful shelter, which means Srimati Radharani, the shelter of the merciful nature of the spiritual energy. And this is what we really need to, you could say, become convinced of and declare it boldly to ourselves and to the world, to our false ego, to our mind, to our senses. We need to declare it boldly that I am engaging in a battle to hear the holy names of Krishna and to engage in service. I am engaging in that battle. No matter what. Whereas other people, they're engaged in a battle for so many other things. But devotees, we're engaged in the battle. I have a service propensity, right? Dharma means I have a service propensity. So I have to serve, right? So instead of my service propensity being misdirected to so many other things in this world, I am battling to have my service propensity engaged in the right direction, namely Krishna and the devotees. I'm battling for that. And I'm battling, my mind, my senses, my ear, so many things, they have urges to engage on the material platform. Right? But instead of just surrendering to that, I am battling to hear the holy name of Krishna. And if we do that, that's what it means to be a devotee, right? That's what it means to be a devotee. And over time, it will become easier and easier and easier and easier and easier. And then you may find yourself in the pages of the Bhagavatam. So, all right, so does anybody have any questions or comments? Check mic, 1, 2. I could repeat the question.
The New Dwarka community, the way I started out when we got there,
Yes.
there was a lot of attendance to the program.
Mm.
But over time it decreased.
Mm. Oh, that's what he said. He said, sorry, I misquoted. He said that Dravida Prabhu was saying there was a lot of attendance in the evening program, but over time it decreased. Yeah, morning was without doubt, but over the time it decreased. But I hope I didn't say that it was non-existent, because he said that there were so many devotees there, but he said there was 50 in the evening program, which it decreased. Which he was saying, oh, in New York, it wasn't like they would never think of that.
It was definitely. I mean, he had a. I'm not going to question it. It's been so long ago, but my recollection is that, it's just the way it happened. Is that as book distribution increased,
Yes.
a lot of the devotees who were the heart of the temple, the most enthusiastic devotees, they would stay out late for book distribution. That was understood because they would increase their score so much, and that meant that they would subtract it from the evening program.
Yeah.
So the most enthusiastic devotees, it's one thing to have a lot of devotees, which is great, but when the ones that the heart and soul, and so that's one of the reasons it suffered, and those who were left just said, it was almost like a stigma. Oh, this means I'm not on book distribution, so I'm not going to even show up. Maybe they'll think I'm on book distribution. There's this whole thing that happened, and gradually it decreased to a certain core, And even today, it's going on. I mean, I remember, Agni Dev. He's famous as a kirtan leader. Now, he was there. He was there as I forget what his service was, but he was in his prime. And the kirtan was so ecstatic that we'd leave the temple and go up and down Watsaka Avenue, just like they do with that one Rath Yatra for Prabhupada Festival. We didn't have the cart, but
Do that every evening?
Not every evening, but
Okay,
many
sometimes.
evenings. Yeah, it'd be so there's so much enthusiasm. It was quite ecstatic.
Nice.
And maybe Maharaj didn't explain. I mean, how he got to L.A. From Brooklyn, because I was there working on the books as a proofreader. Yeah, this is the mic. And
there we go.
when the whole thing came down that we're going to move, his health was always iffy. Even in New Dwarka, but especially in New York. But he was soldiering on as doing books. But after some time, he couldn't go out that much, And I didn't even know he had this degree from Yale or Dartmouth or something like that.
I think it's Yale.
And so he appealed to me. He's Prabhu, can you please talk to Radha? He was the manager, and tell him that I can help with the books and everything. Which I did, and then they brought him along. And then he flourished there. He was the main proofreader for the whole marathon, that famous marathon. And then, 6th Kano, 7th Kano, 8th Kano, 9th Kano, and 10th Kano, chapters 1 to 13. He stayed there in L.A. But he had a relationship with Harikesh Swami, who had spent time. He joined in New York, and he spent some time there. And so, I don't know if he mentioned this, that when he took sannyas, he went to the Eastern Zone. He became one of the few devotees who went into the Eastern Zone during the Soviet times and risked his life. He had some amazing stories from that.
Yeah.
So that was, a whole different era of his life.
Yeah.
I don't want to say.
He said that, Maharaj said that one time Prabhupada, he walked into where, Devamrita Swami, he was doing his work. And then Prabhupada, when he walked in, devotees said, oh, this is Devamrita, Das, and he's proofreading your books. And then Prabhupada just looked at him, and Prabhupada didn't say anything. He just kind of, That's all he said. That's all he just said. And then he maybe smiled, and then Devamrita Swami said that was one of the only interactions he had with Prabhupada. But he said he felt that kept him going for so many years. He said, very inspiring, just seeing Prabhupada, and because Prabhupada was expressing some satisfaction with him. But he was making that point, that it doesn't necessarily mean that devotees may not have so much, you could say, physical proximity with their, spiritual master, Diksha spiritual master, but still, they could be very inspired, nonetheless. But yeah, about this point about book distribution and, devotees coming back late and all that, it's kind of like a fine line because, of course, we want to spread the glories of Krishna throughout the whole universe, right? The universe is. We want to preach. And preaching's so important. I mean, I was thinking about this recently. It's like Srimati Radharani herself, the topmost devotee. Krishna comes, but who is he in the mood of? He's in the mood of Srimati Radharani, right? And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to this world to relish the bliss of Srimati Radharani, but he also is preaching. In the mood of, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, he's preaching. So, yeah, it's quite a high activity, but still, nonetheless, we see from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life is that there's a very fine balance between relishing himself with his associates, means the, hearing and chanting from whatever the Krishna Karnam, Rita, Gita Govinda, these different books, hearing and chanting, relishing, morning, evening, and then also preaching. There's a fine line. So devotees, we should be very careful. I just remember my guru saying how one time, the devotees, they go out and they preach all day long in the city. It's like really hot and, not much reciprocation sometimes, very difficult circumstances, but they go out. And then one particular time, Prabhupada was up in his room, and then he didn't hear the kirtan going on in the evening. So Prabhupada said, "Oh, where's the kirtan?" And then devotees said that, "Oh, they're all out preaching, Prabhupada." So, Prabhupada, no, he said, "This isn't good." He said, "This wasn't my idea." He said, "If they don't hear and chant, come to the kirtans and all that," he said, "oh, they'll just become like karmis. That they'll be just kind of like a material thing. Oh, they're out collecting, So he said, no, they should just have a cutoff time and come back for the. But it turned out that they're actually at some important life members, like, I don't know, funeral, memorial, something. So Prabhupada said, oh, that's okay. But in general, that fine balance is very important. However that looks to each individual devotee, I don't know, but this has to be, there's some balance. Right? We're balanced, right? We try to be balanced. Like, what does that say in the Bhagavad Gita? Yukta hara viharasya. Right? By regulating, by balancing the, eating, sleeping, recreation. What does Krishna say? All your material miseries just go away. That's very important. Right? For people. People could only do that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.